Emily Parker, 6 months pregnant, had grown accustomed to maintaining silence beneath the radiant glow of her husband, tech billionaire Lucas Sinclair. Yet on a single night at a prestigious cybersecurity conference in Brooklyn, when Lucas yanked her laptop bag from her hands beneath the dazzling neon lights, everything shifted in an instant. He never imagined that the gentle woman, long dubbed the backstage muse, was in fact EP Tech, the enigmatic mind who had built the very AI platform powering Sinclair Industries. From that moment on, Emily resolved to break her silence and ignite the silent code mission. Will she find the courage and strength to guide thousands of technology victims in reclaiming their voices? On the 85th floor of the Sinclair Tower, where the glittering skyscraper seemed to pierce the clouds, the grand ballroom was bathed in the glow of hundreds of crystal candles and resplendent chandeliers. Tables draped in pristine white linens stood so opulent that one could almost forget the hum of New York City far below, while champagne flutes clinked together in a delicate tink that spoke of lavish promises among the elite. A hush fell over the guests as they exchanged polite nods, their eyes shimmering with diamonds and the radiant reflections dancing across the deep blue glass walls. Lucas Sinclair, the powerful tech magnate, strode through the gathering with unwavering confidence. His tailored black tuxedo hugged his sculpted frame, each stitch seemingly crafted by Manhattan's finest tailors. His cold gaze was fixed on a polished, social smile, calibrated for every important encounter. Beside him, his wife, Emily Parker, wore a gossamer silk gown in midnight blue, its fabric clinging to her soft curves as her pregnancy entered its third trimester. Her chestnut hair, flecked with auburn highlights, was swept into an elegant chignon at the nape of her neck, stray tendrils brushing her shoulders like the gentle flutter of a heartbeat. In that moment, there was no music, only a suffocating silence that amplified every beat of unease. Emily could feel her own pulse racing, the tiny life within her echoing back as a tender tremor of worry she had never known before. She recalled her father's gentle admonition. "Just breathe deeply, my dear." Yet the air felt thick, as though each inhalation carried the weight of an invisible burden. Across the room, Marina Holt, the Sinclair Industries public relations advisor, glided toward Lucas in a scarlet dress that shimmered like a flame in the night. Her lips curved in a knowing smile as her eyes flickered toward Emily with a silent challenge. Emily felt the prick of that look, as though a pin had pierced her palm, and a shiver ran down her spine, yet she fought to maintain her customary calm. Then, the unthinkable happened in an explosively swift moment. With a sharp twist of his wrist, Lucas half-pushed Emily aside. In the very next instant, his hand rose and came down with a resounding slap across her cheek. The sharp clap echoed like crashing waves in Emily's ears, a brutal sound that shattered the illusion of luxury. It was more than violence. It was a bittersweet declaration of war on love, a crack in the glass fortress that had long sheltered them both, a public humiliation reflected in 100 pairs of stunned eyes. Emily staggered forward, her left cheek burning, tears brimming but unshed. Her heart seemed to choke, each pulse coursing a chill through her veins. The glittering chandeliers blurred in her vision as she braced herself against the plush sofa, her body going limp as though she had tumbled through a nightmare. She could almost hear her dignity fragment, the shards scattering across the polished wood floor. Under that harsh, unyielding light, her shame lay bare in everyone's gaze. Marina adjusted her posture, brushing an errant lock of hair back into place, while Lucas rested his hand casually on Marina's shoulder, his expression a warped blend of contempt and hate. He inspected Emily's fallen form as though examining a wound, not with compassion, but with cold judgment. In that instant, Emily realized she had ignored the warning signs for far too long. His late-night meetings, the perpetual business trips, the furtive looks whenever she inquired about the coffee cup cradled in his hand at home. But this slap was different. It did more than sting her cheek. It awakened a terror she had never known, not just for herself, but for the tiny life blossoming within her, feeling every tremor of distress coursing through her body. Emily folded in on herself, pressing a trembling hand against her belly as though shielding her unborn child from this merciless blow. Her palm quivered, matching the fierce beating of her child's heart, as if whispering, "Mother, I'm still here." Time seemed to freeze. Emily looked up at the towering glass ceiling, where the distorted reflection of the room spelled out a cruel message. "No one will believe you. They'll chalk it up to rumors, a minor blemish against this dazzling facade." She shut her eyes, letting the warmth of her own blood seep across her skin, stifling the tears threatening to spill. From the corner of her eye, she saw a smartphone lens swivel toward her, capturing the moment of her abasement for all to see. Yet, in that searing instant, a spark ignited within Emily, a blaze not of petty anger, but of protective fury. She straightened, her gaze sharpening into fierce resolve. In that flash, the 85th floor ceased to be Lucas's monument to power. It became the crucible of her awakening. Swiftly, she wrapped the sheer shawl from her shoulders around herself, reclaiming her dignity with a gesture that radiated quiet defiance. That single slap shattered her old world, stripping away the glitter to expose the cruelty beneath. And Emily vowed that from these jagged fragments of pain, she would piece together a new path for both herself and her child. No longer would she be the submissive wife. She would rise. In the dazzling glare of the chandeliers, Emily took her first determined step away from the gilded cage, descending the grand staircase toward the lobby, toward the beginning of a life transformed by her refusal to remain silent. Hey, before we dive deeper into Emily's journey, smash that like button if this story speaks to you, and hit subscribe to stay in the loop for more inspiring content. Then drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Can't wait to see our community come alive from coast to coast. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share the video with them too. Morning sunlight filtered through the drapes of Rachel Nguyen's penthouse, casting warm streaks of light across the hardwood floor. The space lay in tranquil silence, broken only by the steady ticking of the wall clock and the measured breathing of Emily as she stood quietly by the window ledge. In that moment, she could see the vast expanse of New York City spread before her. Rows of towering buildings pressed together, the distant clatter of traffic far below, and the ceaseless rhythm of a city that never sleeps. And yet here, high above in a serene Upper West Side retreat, she had found the only sanctuary she could secure after the horrors of last night. Gently, Emily set her luggage down in a corner of the room, her eyes scanning every detail with caution. The heady fragrance of hyacinths in a white porcelain vase on the coffee table soothed her racing heart. The penthouse's open layout, and the abstract painting in hues of blue and violet stretching across the main wall, reminded her that even a life fractured by pain could rise again in vibrant color. She moved to the pale gray sofa and sat down, her breath still coming in short, uneven gasps. Her palm brushed against a soft cushion, the plush fabric strangely comforting, as though it could cradle the shattered pieces of her soul. Not long after, the doorbell rang. Rachel opened it to reveal George and Linda Parker, Emily's parents, standing in the hallway. They had arrived on a moment's notice from New Jersey, bearing only their boundless love and worry. Emily watched as her mother hastily pulled on a beige wool coat, her short hair touched by silver, and her reddened eyes betraying countless nights spent in tears. Her father, tall and broad-shouldered in a loose navy sweater, followed, his face etched with hardship, yet softened by an aura of unwavering warmth that threatened to break Emily's resolve in the gentlest way. Bathed in the shifting sunlight, Emily closed her eyes and felt her mother's arms enfold her in a protective embrace. Linda's hand gripped her daughter's, their breaths mingling in time with each heartbeat. In a hushed tone, heavy with emotions long suppressed, her mother whispered, "My child, I have walked through darkness like yours. I know this pain." Emily bowed her head to her mother's shoulder, tears slipping free as she allowed herself to lean into the safety she once believed lost forever. Standing beside them, George patted Emily's shoulder, his voice a calm baritone. "You do not bear this alone. We will face it together." He exhaled deeply, gazing at her with the same trust he once placed in unerring lines of code written over a lifetime. But today, that logic alone could not heal his daughter's wounds. Yet in his eyes, Emily found a steadfast conviction, as though her father refused to accept resignation as her only choice. By the window, the light danced with every soft gust of wind. Emily lifted her chin and met her mother's gaze, the woman who had once shattered her own chains of psychological abuse in a previous marriage. Linda recounted the terror of those days, the silent cruelty of unspoken words, sleepless nights haunted by fear, and ultimately the courageous decision to leave in order to reclaim herself. Her voice quivered one moment, then held firm the next, as though preserving a lifetime of pain to remind her daughter, "I survived." Emily listened, feeling the weight in her chest slowly lift. Her mother's words offered more than comfort. They were a lifeline of strength. She sniffled softly, wiping away her tears, and steadied her voice. I can't go on like this anymore." Though uttered so gently, her words carried an unbreakable resolve. She needed freedom. She needed to stand on her own 2 feet, not cowered beneath the shadow of a violent husband and a heartless interloper. Smiling tenderly, Linda smoothed down her daughter's hair, reassurance shining in her eyes. "You are doing the right thing. I believe in you." George leaned forward and met Emily's eyes, his gaze illuminating her with empathy rather than cold logic. He said, "You carry within you a precious life. No matter what, that child needs you. Your peace, your safety. Your parents will never let you face this alone." The room seemed to sigh with the sound of their shared breaths, breaths that awakened hope. Emily looked at her parents, sensing her fractured spirit realign with their love and courage. She thought back to each of Lucas's evasive glances, every empty promise, and all the tears she had concealed, and realized that silence would never be the answer. She nodded, her eyes steeled yet filled with vitality. "I will not be silent anymore." Rachel entered with a tray bearing chamomile tea and buttery cookies. The gentle aroma dispelled the lingering heaviness. She set the tray on the table and offered Emily an encouraging look. In that moment, everything was in place. A simple tea ritual to mark the beginning of a new story. One Emily would author for herself, no longer defined as a billionaire's wife, but as a mother and a woman of remarkable strength. Bathed in morning light, the small family of 3 gathered together. Each carried their own history, yet shared one burning aspiration: to live authentically, to stand tall, and to never let anyone steal their right to happiness. And from this place of refuge, Emily would embark on her journey to transform pain into power, stepping into the world with a heart that no longer trembled in fear, but pulsed with determined resilience. Bite by bite, she copied the evidence onto her external drive, the hard drive spinning with a metallic whir. Heat surged through her, beads of sweat forming along her hairline. Every sense became hyper-aware, poised to react to any security alert. She knew time was not on her side. Technical staff might appear at any moment to audit the system, despite checks usually confined to daylight hours. But since Lucas had altered their routine, nighttime inspections were no longer improbable, and security cameras had been reprogrammed for random scans of the room. Emily turned, her gaze catching on a small ceiling-mounted surveillance camera. She held her breath. Time seemed to freeze. Eyes closed, she whispered to herself, "Stay strong. The baby needs me. The truth must come out." Then, carefully, she withdrew the external drive and hid it beneath her lightweight jacket. The mingled scent of sweat and her faint perfume marked her final trace on the leather chair before she vanished into the hallway's shadows. Within those fleeting moments, she had secured proof, an immense repository revealing the true face of a technology empire. Swiftly, she left the desk, her footsteps short and urgent, as though fleeing the very fear she had conquered. The sliding door sealed behind her with a soft click, and she found herself in the hushed corridor, stripped of chandeliers and grandeur, illuminated only by pale corridor lights. Reaching the elevator, Emily's heart raced as the display switched from penthouse to the blinking numbers of floor 1. Everything seemed to slow. Clutching the drive to her chest, breath rapid but resolute, she imagined New York City beyond the buildings still awake, its lights shimmering like witnesses to the secrets poised to surface. When the elevator doors parted, Emily stepped out, the panel's metallic click sealing her departure. The empty hallway stretched before her until the penthouse's front door appeared. She slipped through the narrow opening, closing it gently behind her, and whispered to the quiet, "No one knows, only me and this truth." In that instant, Emily felt the fragile courage swell into undeniable strength. She had unleashed a secret, and the tech world would never be the same. Carla Mendoza's law office occupied an elegant, historic building in Manhattan's financial district, where Art Deco flourishes of carved marble and soaring arched windows still spoke of a bygone era. The sign, Mendoza and Associates, was intricately engraved on the heavy oak door beneath a soft golden sconce. Emily pushed the door open and stepped into a hush so profound that every other sound seemed to yield to her own breathing. The walls, painted in a serene pale blue, complemented the dark brown of bookshelves lined with volumes of legal treatises and case law, testaments to Carla's seasoned reputation and formidable experience. The moment Emily appeared, she felt Carla's keen gaze upon her, a woman in her late 40s, whose stern features were softened by an undercurrent of gentle authority. Carla rose to her feet and invited Emily to sit in a sumptuous leather chair before the expansive desk. Sunlight from the long windows danced off reflective surfaces, highlighting every thoughtful contour of Carla's focused expression. Emily placed the external hard drive and several black and white printouts on the desk. Her hand quivered, her eyes wavering as she searched Carla's face for a glimmer of hope. Drawing a steadying breath, she found her voice and said, "This is everything I have collected." Though her words were few, each syllable carried the weight of many sleepless nights. Carla leaned forward, carefully opening the drive's casing and connecting it to her laptop. Instantly, sensitive folders flashed onto the screen. With swift precision, Carla navigated through rows of figures, signatures approving wire transfers to offshore accounts, contracts for illicit data harvesting, and demo files of user surveillance algorithms. Each file revealed a merciless truth, yet also provided the foundation for shattering the silence. Carla looked up, her eyes flashing with both admiration and astonishment. She paused as though weighing the gravity of the evidence spread before her, then exhaled softly in relief at finding the key to unlock the mystery. "Emily, you have shown extraordinary courage," Carla said, her voice warm yet resolute. "These documents are sufficient to prosecute a range of violations by Sinclair Industries and its board of directors. They exploited legal loopholes to funnel millions of dollars away, and they flagrantly breached data privacy regulations." Emily felt her heart melt at Carla's affirmation. From the depths of her soul, she longed to see justice served. Now, Carla's words were not merely empathic. They were validation of Emily's actions. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I cannot remain silent any longer." Carla opened a sample legal brief, marking key provisions. She pointed to a small clause. "Any material misrepresentation to shareholders," and then added, "And here the Securities Exchange Act, Rule 10b-5, prohibits fraud and deceit. These statutes can expose an entire network of financial manipulation." Carla paused, placing her hand firmly on the desk, her gaze unwavering. "We will need to coordinate with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. They require compelling evidence to launch a formal investigation." Between them, the room's atmosphere tightened with a mix of tension and hope. Emily bit her lip, swallowing the fears about potential fallout. How Lucas might retaliate, how the corporation could attempt to silence her. Yet deep within, her conscience rose above the anxiety. She exhaled softly and met Carla's steady gaze. "I am ready." The phone on the desk rang, interrupting the moment. Carla glanced at the caller ID, then calmly pressed the end call button without hesitation. Turning back to Emily, she said in an even tone, "Our first meeting with the SEC is scheduled for next week. They will enumerate their requests before issuing a subpoena. You may be asked to meet with the investigators, to provide testimony. You must prepare yourself mentally." Emily bowed her head, committing each word to memory. She vowed to maintain her composure and clarity when facing the regulators. Though her heart still trembled, a newfound strength had awakened. She accepted Carla's business card, its black ink embossing Carla Mendoza, Securities Litigation and Enforcement on crisp white stock. And her grip tightened, as if sealing her own resolve. Carla continued, "You must keep this matter confidential, only between us and the SEC. Any leak could tip off the wrongdoers, jeopardizing the evidence or intimidating witnesses." She typed swiftly, drafting a preliminary email to the SEC liaison in New York. Within moments, the groundwork for action was laid. Emily watched the screen as her name appeared in the subject line. Whistleblower submission. Emily Parker. A surge of emotion welled inside her. Pride, fear, and uncertainty intertwined. She remembered her nights rifling through Lucas's technology suite, the green server lights flickering like warning sirens. Now those once inconsequential files had become the cornerstone of a quest for justice. Carla pressed send, and a soft ding resonated in the quiet office. She looked up, her face firm with determination. "You are no longer alone. The SEC has the authority to unmask, subpoena, and indict. They can freeze assets, block stock transactions, even detain key executives. Your actions will turn everything upside down." A hush enveloped the space, punctuated only by the echo of Carla's final words. Emily closed her eyes and took a long, steadying breath. The sweat on her brow dried, replaced by a clarity she had never felt before. Opening her eyes, she managed a slight smile, though her hands trembled. I will do my utmost." Carla nodded approvingly, offering a brief, supportive smile. Rising, she circled the desk and placed a reassuring hand on Emily's shoulder. "Steel yourself. The journey is long, but there is no turning back." The soft click of Carla's footsteps followed as she guided Emily toward the door, closing one chapter even as she opened another, one of justice, courage, and truth. As Emily stepped out, the bustle of New York City continued beyond the glass facade. Late afternoon light streaked across the skyline, promising the dawn of a fair tomorrow, and within Emily's soul, a new flame burned. The flame of a woman determined to expose darkness and bring the light of justice into the heart of the tech world. The cold glare of fluorescent lights reflected off the gleaming metal conference table in the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's (SEC) meeting room in Washington, D.C. The four gray glass walls felt both empty and predatory, as though awaiting the detonation of a major tech scandal. The air was thick, pierced only by the tap of impatient fingers on the tabletop, the rustle of paper, and the measured breaths of those present, each one tinged with tension. Emily Parker entered, her slender frame clad in an oversized suit that nonetheless conveyed resolute purpose. Her swollen abdomen hinted at the tiny life safely nestled within, a heart beating in tandem with her own, each thump a quiet reminder of her dual responsibility. She took a seat halfway down the row of steel and fabric chairs, only a single table separating her from the meeting's chairperson. In front of her lay a meticulously organized dossier, an external hard drive, printed data harvesting agreement contracts, spreadsheets of wire transfers, and a demo of a user surveillance algorithm, arranged chronologically like puzzle pieces awaiting assembly. More than a dozen investigators lined both sides of the long table, their gazes icy, searching for any sign of inconsistency. The lead investigator, a middle-aged woman with her hair neatly pulled back and eyes as sharp as scalpels, tapped her fingertips together and addressed Emily with clinical detachment. "Ms. Parker, can you summarize what you have collected?" Her voice was dry, objective, utterly devoid of emotion. Emily drew a steadying breath, determined to keep her voice unwavering. She clutched a small note card of bullet points, but did not glance at it. Each fact was etched in her memory. "First, I discovered that millions of dollars have been transferred from Sinclair Industries' official accounts to at least 4 shell companies in the Caribbean since March of last year. These records include time-stamped remittance receipts, the names of approving signatures, and transaction codes." She paused, her eyes flicking across the faces of the investigators, noting their keen scribbles. A male investigator directly opposite her nodded softly, his voice low. "The transfers are frequent and substantial. They're exploiting some legal loophole in the Caymans or the British Virgin Islands for money laundering." Emily, delicate though she was, inclined her head in affirmation, recalling the precise figures. $2.7 million, then 5.3s, 8.9s, and finally $12 million. The money moved like a serpent through legal crevices, re-emerging as gargantuan gains. Emily pressed on. "Second, the Sinclair Industries data harvesting agreement with 3 data mining vendors flagrantly violates personal privacy laws. Section 1798.81.5 of the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, is entirely disregarded. They never informed users or sought consent, yet collected behavioral data, browsing histories, even emotional metrics based on typing speed." A flash of indignation lit her eyes. "The algorithm manipulates users' moods, coercing purchases and influencing financial decisions." On the screen in front of her, lines of code flickered in real time, simulating the torrent of data streaming through the system. The hum of the projector's cooling fan droned ominously, like a mechanical heartbeat. Another investigator spoke up. "Ms. Parker, we need to verify whether this demo is an internal Sinclair product." Emily offered a small, confident smile. "Yes, I am EP Tech, the architect who installed and tested this algorithm on the live system." She extracted a compact USB drive and plugged it in. The demo immediately blared its electronic soundtrack, exposing every illicit data block. The room froze, charged with awe and scrutiny. The lead investigator tapped her pen deliberately, then declared, "This evidence is robust enough to expand our inquiry. We will consider freezing Sinclair Enterprises accounts and shares, and summoning board members." Her tone carried the full authority of a federal agency, a threat to any financial powerhouse. Emily spread her documents across the rolling cart, the pages, the USB drives, the PDF packets, each a testament to her sleepless nights of coding and courage. She heard her own heartbeat thundering, yet her fear had vanished. She was standing on the front line of truth. When the conference room door clicked shut behind her, the SEC's investigation was officially underway. Not 24 hours later, headlines screamed, "Breaking news! SEC launches investigation into Sinclair Enterprises." Bloomberg, CNN, Reuters all led with the story. Tweets spread like wildfire. Sinclair scandal trended nationwide as shareholders panicked, dumping Sin stock and sending its price plunging 12% in that afternoon's trading session. I watched Sin down 12% blink on my screen like fireworks in the dead of night. On the New York Stock Exchange floor, the colossal LED tickers splashed the company's name in flaming red numbers, reflected in the jaundiced faces of traders, the clatter of keyboards, the ring of phones. It was chaos incarnate. Amid the frenzy, Emily drifted out of the SEC hearing like a specter, carrying the quiet force of her revelation. Along Pennsylvania Avenue, cabs and Ubers streamed by in a muted procession. Emily climbed into the waiting black SUV, her expression a blend of tension and resolute hope. She peered out the tinted window, the SEC building standing sternly behind her, a fortress of authority. She knew the fight ahead would be grueling. Yet in her heart, she was unwavering. The baby nestled against her spine gave one hearty kick, as if affirming every beat of her courageous heart. The inquiry widened. Lucas Sinclair's name was initially shielded, but it could not remain so once the media delved deeper. Sinclair stock continued its downward spiral as investors scrambled to cut losses. The tech empire rocked on its foundation, and among every SEC investigator, one name echoed with admiration and respect: Emily Parker, the slight woman who had shattered a wall of power with nothing but unassailable evidence and ironclad resolve. Washington's chill evening air swept through the capital's streets, streetlights scattering pools of gold. Emily braced herself for the mounting pressures, from attorneys to journalists to corporate moguls, but she did not flinch. She believed that a well-placed truth could never be buried, and in her core, the righteous flame of justice burned ever brighter, warming her and her unborn child as they journeyed into the long night ahead. Carla Mendoza's office swiftly filed the petition in Manhattan Family Court, accompanied by documentation of domestic violence, breaches of the prenuptial agreement, and financial evidence forwarded from the SEC. Emily secured interim assets to sustain her and her unborn child, a modest Brooklyn apartment, a bank trust, and custody rights. It was not excessive. It was a necessary lifeline for the journey ahead. On Emily's first hearing day, she entered a more modest courtroom, lacking the grandeur of Lucas's federal appearance, but warmed by goodwill. Friends and family filled the pews, their faces alight with admiration and respect. In a gentle business dress, Emily arrived, her nerves steadied by the support around her. She did not tremble, but stood tall and confident. The judge delivered the ruling. Custody of the child is granted to Ms. Parker. Assets shall remain in interim trust as petitioned. Mr. Sinclair must appear to address support obligations and division terms. The gavel's rap sounded like thunder ripping through her darkest night. Applause resonated. This time, genuine applause. Emily felt a flood of emotion, relief, freedom, and a spark of hope. She exited the courtroom flanked by loved ones, sunlight streaming through limestone columns, casting golden patterns across the steps. A small smile curved her lips as she gazed toward the Brooklyn skyline, where her new home awaited. It was unadorned by opulence, but rich with the peace she sought. Stepping into a waiting cab, Emily placed her hand over her abdomen. A soft kick answered her touch, and she smiled, her eyes bright with expectation. Her new life began here. No more billionaire titles, no more forced glamour. Only a mother's love and an open horizon. As the taxi rolled over the Williamsburg Bridge, she cast one last glance at Manhattan, bidding a quiet farewell to the shadows behind her, and greeting the dawn of her new beginning. Carla Mendoza's office swiftly filed the petition in Manhattan Family Court, accompanied by documentation of domestic violence, breaches of the prenuptial agreement, and financial evidence forwarded from the SEC. Emily secured interim assets to sustain her and her unborn child, a modest Brooklyn apartment, a bank trust, and custody rights. It was not excessive. It was a necessary lifeline for the journey ahead. On Emily's first hearing day, she entered a more modest courtroom, lacking the grandeur of Lucas's federal appearance, but warmed by goodwill. Friends and family filled the pews, their faces alight with admiration and respect. In a gentle business dress, Emily arrived, her nerves steadied by the support around her. She did not tremble but stood tall and confident. The judge delivered the ruling. Custody of the child is granted to Ms. Parker. Assets shall remain in interim trust as petitioned. Mr. Sinclair must appear to address support obligations and division terms. The gavel's rap sounded like thunder ripping through her darkest night. Applause resonated. This time, genuine applause. Emily felt a flood of emotion, relief, freedom, and a spark of hope. She exited the courtroom flanked by loved ones, sunlight streaming through limestone columns, casting golden patterns across the steps. A small smile curved her lips as she gazed toward the Brooklyn skyline, where her new home awaited. It was unadorned by opulence, but rich with the peace she sought. Stepping into a waiting cab, Emily placed her hand over her abdomen. A soft kick answered her touch, and she smiled, her eyes bright with expectation. Her new life began here. No more billionaire titles, no more forced glamour, only a mother's love and an open horizon. As the taxi rolled over the Williamsburg Bridge, she cast one last glance at Manhattan, bidding a quiet farewell to the shadows behind her and greeting the dawn of her new beginning. Morning sunlight streamed through the expansive windows of the Dumbo office building, landing directly on Emily's ashwood desk. After days of chaos marked by courtroom dramas and relentless media scrutiny, this was the first time she woke to a profound sense of peace, no longer haunted by the rooftop slap or the agonizing divorce spectacle. The compact workspace exuded a gentle industrial vibe, raw brick walls, a soft finish concrete floor, and warm amber lights casting their glow across steel I-beams, all signaling a brand new beginning. Emily tiptoed to the glass shelving unit that held her backup drive, a vault containing the sprawling EP Tech archive, and smoothed the oversized sweater draped over her 6-month pregnant belly, feeling the steady warmth of her child's heartbeat beneath the fabric. That tiny being knew nothing of power or pomp, and that was the most beautiful truth of all. Here, she was simply a technology advisor, not the wife of a disgraced billionaire at the center of a scandal that had scrubbed his name from the headlines. The startup Emily had joined had only formed 6 months earlier, a tight-knit team of cybersecurity enthusiasts. They had painted their motto, "Protect Data, Safeguard Trust," on the wall beside a world map peppered with red dots, each dot marking a thwarted cyber attack. When she received the invitation to join as an advisor, Emily hesitated. A modest salary, no equity stake, a commute of over 10 miles, and hours that demanded flexibility for her impending motherhood. Yet she recognized this as her chance to reclaim her authenticity. On her first morning, Emily walked along the cobblestone lane winding between old warehouse buildings, gazing at the majestic Brooklyn Bridge, standing sentinel above the East River. The wind carried the sweet scent of cinnamon from a nearby waffle shop. She rang the buzzer. The steel roll-up door slid open with a soft mechanical sigh, and she stepped into a warmth that contrasted with the chill outside. The open-plan workspace revealed a long conference table, ergonomic chairs, and rows of potted greenery flanking stacks of books on code, security, and AI. She took her place at the table as the CEO, a fresh-faced 30-something with a lean frame and passionate eyes, outlined the company's mission. Emily observed her colleagues in quiet fascination, from the animated, tattooed software engineer to the bespectacled security analyst flipping through a thick binder. Their energy crackled like electricity, as if they were on the cusp of shaping the future. She shared her experience in building AI-driven anomaly detection systems under the EP Tech pseudonym, speaking calmly, yet letting her eyes illuminate with enthusiasm whenever she described neural network layers and multi-factor encryption processes. Her audience listened intently, nodding and scribbling notes, their respect earned not by reputation, but by her expertise and earnest professionalism. Her inaugural task was a full security audit of the company's monitoring infrastructure. Emily spent the entire afternoon poring over server logs, reading scripts, and highlighting vulnerabilities. The monitor displayed a labyrinthine stream of connection metrics and alerts, thousands of data points scrolling in relentless succession. She moved methodically across each line, like an archaeologist uncovering hidden relics, until she found a hashing algorithm too weak for production. She annotated her findings and drafted enhancement proposals. Her mind raced as swiftly as the CPU she monitored. That evening, Emily crossed the glittering Manhattan Bridge home, the city lights shimmering like distant constellations on the water. She did not leap into bed. Instead, she settled at her home desk, replaying the illicit surveillance algorithm demo she had captured, comparing it line by line to the startup's framework. Each keystroke and data packet felt like a heartbeat, once black and white on her screen, now blooming into a vibrant tapestry of network security. She smiled and whispered to herself, "This is what I was meant to do." Within weeks, the startup's rapid evolution drew admiring glances. Emily proposed a real-time intrusion detection tool built on a Hadoop platform, optimizing data pipelines for low-latency analysis. The development team raced to implement her design, overcoming initial memory overflow errors with successive patches. Each successful deployment pinged the dashboard with tiny green markers, testaments to safety regained. Morning stand-ups grew shorter as the team celebrated skyrocketing thwarted attacks, from mere dozens to hundreds daily. Her colleagues soon began calling her the AI Whisperer, the one who could anticipate hacker moves and heal breaches. Though she rarely acknowledged the nickname, Emily's eyes reflected a quiet pride. For the first time in months, she felt whole. This work had rekindled her lost identity, bright, sharp, and fueled by a fervor for technological innovation. Success did not arrive overnight, yet it found them before too long. By the end of the quarter, the startup was invited to present at the RSA conference in San Francisco. Emily stood under the stage lights, before hundreds of attendees and scores of cameras, unveiling their intelligent intrusion detection system. Her voice rang with confidence, each slide revealing a 70% performance boost and a 50% reduction in response time. Applause thundered throughout the grand hall, and Emily paused for a heartbeat, breathing deeply as waves of admiration and newfound trust washed over her. Back in Dumbo, she entered the office clutching a small bouquet her teammates had bestowed. They cheered and embraced her, laughter filling the space in jubilant harmony. For the first time, Emily let tears fall, not of pain, but of profound joy. She felt validated, seen, and part of something greater, a mission to protect data and preserve global trust. In the days that followed, she continued working late nights, refining algorithms and mentoring junior developers. She launched an internal workshop, AI and Ethics in Cybersecurity, emphasizing privacy rights and user respect, a lesson forged in her own painful past. Each session saw her eyes alight with passion, her hands tracing network topologies in the air, inspiring the next generation. Over time, the company Emily advised grew into a respected name in security. Tech media heralded them as the rising star of network defense. And clients from nimble startups to established mid-caps sought their solutions. Emily watched revenue charts climb, knowing the transformation extended beyond balance sheets to her own soul. In her modest Brooklyn apartment, Emily rested her hand on her belly, feeling the fluttering kicks of her unborn child. She smiled, certain she had chosen the right path. Once a resigned wife, now a technology advisor and a crusader for truth and privacy. This new venture was not merely a career pivot. It was a journey of healing, empowerment, and the forging of a safe, authentic future for herself and her child. Sunlight streamed through the large windows of the silent code office, mingling with the warm glow of lights reflected off shelves crammed with textbooks on cybersecurity and programming. The room was simply decorated with hand-drawn pictures by children who had participated in the program, each painting telling a story, an eye, a smile, reborn from the darkness of cyberbullying. In the center, Emily Parker, the woman who once bore the sting of a slap at a lavish party, stepped to the long conference table where her co-founders, attorney Carla Mendoza and software engineer Rachel Nguyen, were arranging files. The three exchanged glances, and in the quiet moment, they understood that Silent Code was more than an organization. It was the dream of a fair tech world where anyone could find a voice and a shield to protect themselves. Emily gently touched the banner behind the table emblazoned with Silent Code, the power of quiet strength. In her eyes, it blazed like a promise. From silence, true inner power arises, and Silent Code would channel that power to thousands of women and children hurt by technology-driven violence, from threatening messages to the leak of private images. Their first program took place in a modest Brooklyn auditorium. Emily stood at the podium as participants of all ages sat attentively. A 12-year-old girl recently cyberbullied, a single mother whose personal photos had been exposed. Each had come with one shared desire: to defend themselves, to learn tools that would make them stronger. Emily saw their astonished, hopeful faces and felt her heart melt, recognizing that she held a mission of immense significance. Rachel introduced the basic coding course, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, enabling participants to build their own websites and understand exactly how hackers exploit vulnerabilities. The all-day workshops never lost momentum. The clatter of keyboards, the bright spark in each eye when the first lines of code ran successfully. A young woman who had arrived full of self-doubt now beamed with pride, witnessing her own code come to life. That was the moment Emily wanted to freeze forever, the quiet strength bursting into tangible power. Carla, with her wealth of legal experience, took the microphone to guide those whose privacy had been violated on how to gather evidence, contact attorneys, and use legal templates to file suit. She shared Emily's mother's story, how she endured psychological abuse and ultimately rebuilt her life, her voice ringing out in the hall, infusing every listener with courage. A middle-aged woman wept, realizing she was not alone. A young student meticulously took notes, resolved to share the knowledge with her roommates. Silent Code did not stop at in-person workshops. The team launched a free online platform, offering hundreds of tutorial videos from beginner to advanced level. Each video included subtitles in multiple languages for minority communities. Weekly live streams drew thousands of viewers, the chat buzzing with questions. How do I block trackers? What's the best way to encrypt messages? And Emily and Rachel answered each inquiry in detail. Beneath every video, grateful comments poured in, stories were shared, and simple notes like, "Thank you, Silent Code, for helping me believe in myself," warmed their hearts. Once the legal fund was established, thanks to donations from philanthropists, tech companies, and countless grassroots supporters, Carla worked tirelessly with pro bono law firms to provide free assistance to victims seeking legal recourse. Whether complex privacy disputes or ransom-driven hacking incidents, Silent Code intervened swiftly, helping people reclaim control over their digital and emotional lives. The press and television soon took notice. Silent Code was hailed as an innovative model blending technology with social justice. Articles lauded Emily, the woman once deeply wounded, who had erected a sanctuary for thousands. Rachel was celebrated as the sower of tech wisdom in the complex web world. And Carla was praised as the iron rose, extending justice's protective petals. Together they became living proof of the quiet strength now radiating outward. On average, more than 5,000 learners attended in-person courses each year, and tens of thousands accessed the online platform. Incidents of extortion and online harassment dropped significantly in neighboring communities, thanks to timely prevention and resistance. Silent Code even expanded to NGO and school partnerships, training teachers and staff in digital safety education methods. And Emily, no longer the timid woman cowering after that fateful slap, had rediscovered her voice and her life's purpose. Every morning, she sat at her desk cradling her baby, typing emails to organize the next event, Her eyes glowed with faith and responsibility. This was not a story of vengeance, but a journey of transforming pain into positive energy, inspiring an entire community to move forward together. The profound lesson imparted by Silent Code is not merely learn to protect yourself, but quiet strength within each of us can radiate outward and heal wounds. In an ever-digitizing world, anyone can fall victim, but anyone can also stand as a warrior for digital justice. Silence is not resignation, but latent power awaiting its moment to rise. Emily's and Silent Code's story is far from over. They are planning to extend the program across the entire United States, partnering with universities and legislators to forge a stronger legal framework. Version 2.0 of Silent Code will soon launch, featuring a free AI platform that detects privacy infringements the moment they surface on social media. And now, to you, our viewer, we want to hear your story. Share which state you're watching from, at what hour, and your thoughts on the quiet strength within you. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next inspiring stories. Leave us a comment to tell us how Silent Code can further support you, and share this video with friends and loved ones across America to spread the message: digital safety, privacy, quiet strength. We're truly honored to accompany you on this journey of connection and protection for all the silent voices. We'll see you in the next video.